Georgia Edson and tonight's producer, Chris Rosales. Before Georgia gets into an edible discussion, we've got a little bit of news. To begin with, the DEA last Thursday ordered 23 dispensaries to close in the state of Washington. Again, last Thursday, 23 dispensaries in the state of Washington were given 30 days to close, meaning until September 23rd, to move or cease operation. Now, while folks in California and Colorado are used to this kind of activity, this was the first of its type in Washington state. Now, while there have been rumors that this was a response to the back and forth over I-502 in Washington, quotes from an attorney in that state, Douglas Hyatt, who interestingly enough is anti-502, but is knocking down any rumors claiming that this was in response to HempFest recently. As we talked about a few months ago, Kentucky has been playing with the idea of medical marijuana. And interestingly enough, today, Democratic Senator Perry Clark pre-filed a medical marijuana bill for the 2013 legislative session. According to the NBC affiliate in Lexington, Kentucky, this was done this morning. And their quote from Senator Clark is, "This is not a conservative issue or a liberal issue. It's an issue of compassion. Countless studies show that marijuana is effective at treating pain, nausea, loss of appetite, and other symptoms. If it was my family member, I would do anything to relieve their suffering," end quote. So interesting. I never heard of bills being pre-filed.
What does that even mean exactly?
I guess just get it on the itinerary ahead of time.
Wow.
And so good luck to the activists in Kentucky with their work towards that. And of course, I don't think we talked about last week, but Arkansas the medical marijuana in Arkansas did make the ballot. So that will be voted on in November.
Arkansas. I mean, it's so amazing to me that we're talking about these states. I mean, it is just, it's fantastic. It's fantastic that states that we consider to be really, really conservative are taking a compassionate stance and are taking a more broad-minded stance. I'm
not sure why we can have activity in Arkansas but no activity in Illinois, Montana. I mean, other states where you'd think things would happen. And I meant Minnesota, not Montana. But anyway, odd bit of news all across the internet and regular press today. It's reporting that the United States Medical Marijuana Chamber of Commerce is endorsing President Obama in his run for re-election. As part of the press release, it's discussed that the USMMCC has over 10,000 members across the country and that they are endorsing current President Obama. And not while I'll get into their agreement or disagreement with their endorsement of the sitting president, I can't find anyone who's ever heard of the U.S. Medical Marijuana Chamber of Commerce. Nevertheless, where 10,000 members come from.
Well, there is a chapter in Colorado of the Chamber of Commerce. I've heard of that.
Okay, and where are they? And who runs it? And where did you hear about it?
From the person who runs it, whose name escapes me, but I will.
Okay.
Yeah,
there wasn't anything on the internet about it. In a quick search about it, what popped up was nothing. I mean, please feel free to go on there. There was some mention, though, in pulling the press release, it's indicated that Thomas L. Leto III is the president and founder of the U.S. Medical Marijuana Chamber of Commerce. When researching him, it looks like he is also the head of Fort Knox Cannabis Corporation, as well as Hydroplex LLC. And while there is a website up under his name, references to both those companies indicate that they will be starting, it looks like, in December 2012. So just kind of an interesting thing that popped out. And again, this is not to be confused with the U.S. Medical Marijuana Party, which I saw a lot of press releases were confusing it with. And that, of course, is Wayward Bill's group. But that is the news for today.
So aren't you going to tell us about some robberies?
Nope.
No robberies 2 weeks in a row.
Not exactly true, but there were none today.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's very good. We kind of have an exciting show today. I have a bit of bad news / good news.
Uh-huh.
So, tonight is the night where Levi from Noto Urban Garden Supply does our grow segment.
No, he doesn't. He's never come in.
He hasn't been here in
4 months.
He hasn't
3
been
months?
here in a while. He is currently in the hospital.
That sucks.
It does. He he broke his hand. So he's at the hospital. I shouldn't say he's in the hospital. He's at the hospital because he broke his hand. He was being very chivalrous. A woman, unfortunately, was being physically assaulted, and he got in the middle of it and broke his hand on another person's face. So we wish Levi the best. We have John from MMD of Colorado is going to be talking about the summer growing blues and what to do about it and how to rectify some of your bug issues or heat issues or those kinds of things. And then, as Warren talked about, we are going to have an interesting discussion about edibles. We've talked about various forms of delivery methods for one's medication numerous times. And edibles are certainly always something that comes up. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was people get confused about dosages and how much should I take and why does it take so long and why do I always fall asleep and am I supposed to fall asleep and what's the difference between a tincture and and just a drink and food items and those kinds of things, and are there specific food items that best help digest the edible more quickly, those kinds of things. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about that was because there was a guest editorial in the Denver Post this morning that we read, right, Warren? Mm-hmm. And it's entitled "Beware of That Cookie." And a gentleman by the name of Carrie Booth, who is a document control clerk working for RTD at the Union Station Project, tells the story of eating a cookie on a camping trip that was given to him by a family member, and he didn't have a very pleasant experience. This is someone who's never used marijuana in the past. This is his first introduction to marijuana, and it affected him very strongly. And he talks about kind of seeing hallucinations and those kinds of things, and he just really struggles. But one of the things that he talks about that he mentions is that because of that experience, that there's no way that marijuana could be safer than alcohol. And so one of the things that we want to talk about today is wow, this guy had a bad experience. He had a bad experience, and not only did he have a bad experience, but unfortunately it sounds like he had an illegal experience, which is bothersome, that he's telling the story about a family member giving him a cookie and he's not a patient and those kinds of things. So that's that's one issue. But the other issue is that a patient, when they go into a medical marijuana center, receives information from the staff on dosages, but that initial information started with the patient's relationship with their doctor, and then talking about the possibility of using edibles and those kinds of things, and how to do that safely and thoughtfully, because your body does digest THC differently when it hits the liver versus when you're smoking. And so we're going to talk with Jenny Smith, who was one of the founding members of the Candy Girls, which is an edibles company in Colorado, and they have been doing this for quite some time and have some great information. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to know how to start utilizing edibles as part of your medical regime. And it should be a really interesting conversation. Edibles aren't what they used to be, where people put a bunch of leaves in their Betty Crocker brownie mix and stirred it up and popped it in the oven. We're going to talk about one of the reason why you smoke, why you light marijuana on fire, is because that THC needs to be activated, and it needs to be at 212 degrees in order to be activated. And so that's what happens with the cooking methods. But now they're so the technology has increased so tremendously that people have their products tested, and they know exactly what you're getting, and the dosages. People have always struggled with this cookie's too strong and this cookie's not strong enough, and how do you reconcile that? And so we're gonna have some conversations around that tonight. And yeah, today was the first day of school at Denver Public Schools. And so if you saw a lot of parents walking around today, if you're in Denver, who looked somewhat relieved, it's because their kids have a regular schedule for the next 9 months. And for some parents, that's very relieving. I don't know how I feel about it. Our son likes school, and that's great. Wow, homework takes up a lot of time. Even in second grade, homework takes up a lot of time. So yeah, that's our show today, and I'm happy that we didn't have to start off with some kind of burglary or robbery or something along those lines. So I think that we're ready for commercial, and we want to thank our friends at Noto Urban Garden Supply. They are located at 1330 27th Street in downtown Denver, just northeast of Coors Field. Noto Urban Garden Supply is not just for the professional gardener, but for the hobby cultivationist as well. They are your full hydro center. As we have talked about week after week, you've got to try their compost tea. This is wonderful. If you go in and talk to Levi, he will tell you exactly how to help all of your plants by using this compost tea, rich in nutrients, is able to help a wide variety of soil issues and rejuvenate your soil and really help feed the plants the nutrients that they want. This is a dedicated, knowledgeable staff of folks at Noto Urban Garden Supply. You can visit them on the web at www.nodourbangardensupply.com. Again, they're at 1330 27th Street in Denver. Check them out, and we'll be right back.
The law offices of Edson Maton and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back. You're listening to Georgia and Warren on iCannabis Radio. And we are going to call John, who is the professional master grower at MMD of Colorado. And we're going to talk to him about the summer growing blues. At least that's what I want to call it. He'll probably call it something else, but we will see.
Hello.
Hey, John, you're live on the air on iCannabis Radio.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm stumbling around Whole Foods, but I'm prepared to do this. Let me go take a seat.
What happened with happy hour?
I'm already done with happy hour. It was wonderful. I was very happy.
It was very happy. Well, I'm so glad. Well, I was just telling everyone that we have gotten so many calls and questions about what's going on with summer. My plants aren't happy. I can't regulate my temperatures. Oh my God, every bug that I thought that I had eradicated has now infested again, and I don't know what to do about it. Is this a common issue?
Well, it's every summer pretty much. I mean, it's the bane of the indoor grower. Generally, I used to own an organic farm, and so it was the complete opposite. You waited all through fall and winter, and it was terrible because you couldn't do anything. And then when spring and summer arrived, you were as happy as a clam because you could do everything. And it's almost the opposite. The never summer concept that's here in Colorado is most shown in grow rooms. People want to grow in winter all year long if possible because that's the ideal time to do it. Summer is problematic because basically it's just hot. And so when it's hot, then everything, and there's no bugs in the winter. I mean, in the winter what happens is the bugs do try to come into your grow room because they're trying to escape certain death from being out in the freezing cold. So they look for any place to go, which is why you probably find spiders in your house in the winter.
Right.
It's the same thing in a grow room. Well, in the summer, it's really even worse because there's bugs everywhere, all over outside, and so they're looking for a way in. And it's not that difficult. I mean, unless you have a completely sealed room, which your small-scale grower can do, although it takes a lot of effort. But without a totally sealed environment and a integrated pest management protocol, you're always going to have problems in the summer to a far greater degree than you would in the winter.
So would you give different advice to the hobby cultivationist versus the larger professional grow?
Yeah, when you're small, like everybody in this business kind of started out that way, you can use products that are more gentle because you have the ability to really spend quality time with each and every one of your plants. When you're a large-scale producer, you don't have that luxury anymore. You can't hire enough people to look at your plants the way that you would. I mean, anyone who grows, whether it's a medical patient who just has 2 or 3 plants in their basement to a large-scale dispensary, we all love our plants. I mean, they're like become a part of our lives. And when you're small, you can really pay the attention to them that you'd like. But when you get to a certain point, it just becomes impossible to care for hundreds and hundreds of plants with that level of detail.
Right.
So it requires you to maybe sort of scale up your attack, which isn't to say that you can't be organic. You can. It's just that there are plenty of very powerful organic products out there that small-scale growers don't have to get into because they're able to. I've known growers who could pick off. They had time to pick off all the bugs on a plant themselves by hand. So when you can do that, it really does open up an opportunity to create a level of quality that's hard to achieve on a large scale.
Sure. So what are the things that you would tell just the home grower to do to help with the bug issue? I mean, I know we're going into August and it's starting to cool down a little bit, but are there some things that they should be doing right now to keep that under control?
Well, the easiest thing to do, I mean, it's not just bugs, it's also heat and humidity.
Right.
And so for if you take them in that order, with bugs, the easiest thing to do is to create an IPS or an integrated pest control system. And that means that once a week or bi-monthly, you use certain products, whether or not you think you need them. You continue to use these products, and there are many that are organic and safe and also very effective. But you do that in such a way that you never allow the bugs the chance to rise up. People jokingly refer to spider mites as the Borg because they're, once they're in your grow, they're almost, they'll assimilate everything.
Right.
They're almost unstoppable unless you really want to get radical with the products you use, and most people don't want to do that. So if you can never allow them entry or use a integrated pest control system that always prevents them from really rising up, that's the best thing. Prevention being number one.
Sure.
As far as heat goes, if possible, find a basement. Basements are always better than spare bedrooms, and certainly better than garages or attics. I mean, an attic would be impossible in the summer. But basements are more self-regulating, and it's easier to control the temperature. And also, having a proper ventilation system. Many years ago, lights weren't vented, and you always had to shut down in the summer. But now, with the new grow tech gear that's out there, you can do so much with just a fan and some 8-inch ducting to cool your room. And if you apply most of these methods together, you can make it through the summer. It's just never going to be as good as the winter.
Yeah. So once folks have a bug issue, is there a point that they can still apply something to be able to eradicate the bugs, or is there a point where they just have to trash their crop?
It depends on the bug and the point at which you realize you've got a problem. There are several good products out there that are safe and natural and effective that you can use to defeat most types of bugs. There are different kinds. You've got bugs on your leaves, for example. Most often that's going to be a spider mite. You've also got bugs that attack your roots. Here in Colorado, the big issue is root aphids, and they are tough, nasty bugs.
Yeah.
But there are products, if you go to your local hydro store, they've got several products that really work, but you have to get them at the right time. There are products that you can use right up until just a few days before harvest, and they're all natural, organic products, generally made with ingredients like rosemary oil or garlic oil, but they're not as completely effective. So it's really a judgment call on the part of the grower. Most people don't want to smoke bugs,
right?
Or have their product turned into an edible that had bugs on it. However you choose to medicate, you don't really want to think about bugs being a part of that process. So
right.
The best thing to do is to get them early, and there are several great products out there, but get them early and then stay on top of it.
Now, going back to the heat issue a little bit, what's the optimal temperature?
Yeah, it's a good question. It really depends.
Okay.
If you're enriching your room with CO2, then you can run at a much higher temperature. As a matter of fact, the plants prefer at a higher temperature. If you have 1,000 to 1,200 parts per million of CO2 in your room, your plants want 88 to 90 degrees. Well, if you only have ambient levels or naturally occurring levels of CO2, which is around 350 to 400 parts per million, your plants will basically stop growing above 90 degrees. So there's not a completely simple answer to that question.
Right.
But let's say most people don't use CO2. High 70s is really good, and that kind of bridges the gap between what your old school landrace strains and your old school jungle strains like long flowering sativas. You have to kind of find a happy medium. A lot of times people will have more than one strain growing in a room, and your jungle strains like hotter temperatures, and your landrace strains like your cushes want cold nights. And so you're trying to find a happy medium, but the upper 70s is pretty good. If it feels good to you, the plant's probably going to like it.
Well, that sounds like a good rule of thumb. So, sorry, my producer is pointing out that we have a bug here in the studio, and it's not a root aphid, it's not a spider mite, it's not flying, it's an ants. It's an ugly, ugly ants. So,
well, they're mostly benign,
except for they're gross and they shouldn't be in here. But so are there some products that in particular you would recommend?
There's a lot of azodactrin-based products that come from an extract of neem, which is a tree that grows, and those products are safe and effective. Now, they have to be used properly, and the best thing to do is read the instructions. A lot of these companies that produce these products will have a website where you can go and they'll have a list of frequently asked questions. Do a lot of research before you apply these things. But there are lots of other types of products. A good one out there right now for basic pest control is called Monterey Bay. It's got a organic insecticide called spinosad that's very effective. But it's more effective if you apply it early and you apply it regularly. And these are the safest alternatives. There are a lot of napalm-like alternatives that people shouldn't, really try to steer away from that, because you don't want to experiment on yourself, and consuming those things is not ideal.
Absolutely. And the state has put a lot of regulations into commercial grows as to what products they can and cannot use. And so that's pretty regulated. And in terms of that was kind of neat. In terms of applying anything when something's in flower, is that something that you recommend? Did we lose John? Oh, bummer. We're gonna call him right back. I think that there's bad cell service at Whole Foods, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. I was just joined in the studio by my friend Jenny from Mile High Wellness, who's been a sponsor of iCannabis Radio forever. And Jenny and I are going to talk with Jenny Smith from the Candy Girls in a little bit about about edibles.
Thank God. We love her. She's amazing.
It'll be wonderful.
Very informative.
Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi. Whole Foods
Hi.
cut you off because you were talking about marijuana. That's
I think they love that here.
They probably do. They probably do. So I was just about to ask you a question about applying anything when your plants are in flower. Are the non
Yeah, it's a little touchier. You know, the earlier you do it, the better. The first couple of weeks you can get away with a lot of stuff. As the plants mature and your blooms become larger, you want to be careful about damaging them. Even if you're spraying water, the physical reaction of the bloom to being sprayed by something, especially if it comes in hard, like a hard rain would outside, it can kind of tear up the product and beat it up a little bit. So
Sure.
You want to be gentle. The finer the mist, the better. It also helps to raise your lights as high as you reasonably can, or even turn your lights off, but have some backup ambient light. If you've got just regular overhead lights you could turn on, and maybe some fluorescence or a T5, turn that on just so that your plants maintain the light cycle, but the intensity of those HID, those high intensity discharge lights, have been taken away. That will allow you to apply a mist without worrying about the water droplets, or especially if you're using something that has rosemary oil or garlic oil in there. That oil tends to bead up on the surface of the leaf, and when light from a 1,000 watt or 600 watt HID light, when it hits that bead, it magnifies, and so you'll get little brown spots on your leaves after you do that. So if you raise your lights up real high, or if you have the option, use some alternative lighting. Before you turn your HID lights off, you have some fluorescent lights going on, or the overhead lights in the room, and that will be enough for the plants to maintain the light cycle that you've had them on. And then once the mist that you've used has had a chance to evaporate, an hour and a half, you can turn the lights back on.
Okay. So I had a question about if there are specific strains that are better or worse summer strains.
Yes. Well, and not just summer strains, but there are specific strains that are just naturally a lot more resistant to pests and other problems like mold. I don't know why. For whatever reason, we grow Durban poison, and it is almost never affected. If anything goes wrong in the grow, this plant, it just seems like it is completely oblivious to whatever the problem is, because spider mites never touch it, powdery mildew never touches it, and there are several strains like that. We have a super lemon haze that also is pretty resistant, but we have other strains that people really like also that are very susceptible to these problems, and so it really requires a lot of diligence to grow those strains that a lot of people want, because sometimes they're more susceptible. So choosing a good strain really is like the very first decision you can make to head off these problems before they start.
Excellent, excellent. Well, John, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I think our listeners are going to be thrilled to know that, A, they're not the only ones that have some problems in the summer, and that there are some things that they can do about it. So thank you very much.
I love the show. I'll come back anytime you'll ask.
Okay. I heard you say that, and you're on the air. It's recorded for here and ever. So, all right, I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you so much. We've been talking to John, the grower at MMD of Colorado, and we are going to take an ad break. And after that, Jenny from Mile High Wellness and I are going to talk to our friend Jenny Smith from the Candy Girls. And one of our sponsors, of course, is Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. mmrockies.com is your mountain source for meds. Not only do they have wonderful flowers, but they also have a pretty large immature plant selection. You can go and purchase your your baby plants there. Check out their website again, mmrockies.com, where they always update their clone or their immature plant and strain selection. And make sure that you go and visit them and say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. They're located in Frisco, Colorado, exit 203 off of I-70. Right behind the Big O Tires. That's Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, mmrockies.com. And they will treat you so right. We love Aaron and Jerry. You're listening to iCannabis Radio. I'll be right back.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706. Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. runongrass.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I am Georgia, and I'm here with Jenny from Mile High Wellness. Say hello, Jenny.
Hello. How's everyone doing?
We're all doing fine, thank you. It's hard for them to answer back.
Right.
So I will just do that for them. So we're going to go ahead and call Jenny Smith from the Candy Girls, which is an edibles company in Colorado, and they have been around for quite some time and produce some just wonderful, consistent edibles and topicals. And we want to get some input from Jenny, both the Jennys, about using edibles and the hows and the whys.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny. You're live on the air. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Georgia?
Good. We're here with Jenny Foster as well.
Hello. Hello.
Awesome. Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
So as you know, we talked earlier. There was a guest commentary on the editorial page of the Denver Post today that was entitled "Beware of That Cookie," and the author Carrie Booth talked about going on a camping trip with his family. And he says the hallucinations were startling. Outside the window was the front yard of my boyhood home, but I was hundreds of miles and decades removed from that house. Not only did I think I was looking back through time, but across space as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So he talks later on in the article about being on a camping trip, but his family members give him a cookie, and he eats the whole thing, and he
doesn't know that it's a medicated cookie.
He does know it's a medicated cookie, but he's never consumed marijuana before, and this is the first time, and it sounds like no one talked him through how to eat the cookie, how much to eat, any of those kinds of things. So but before we start all of that, I want to that's going to be the premise of our discussion, but to kind of lay the groundwork, tell us a little bit about you and your business and how you came to be an infused product company owner.
Okay. Well, I believe that marijuana is the tree of life, that it is a plant that's given to all of us to use in all different ways. It meets every purpose our entire world needs, industrial-wise, food-wise, nutritional-wise, and obviously medicinally. I've learned a lot about the plant, and I know that it is beneficial, that our bodies are meant to absorb it, to use it. It's put here for us to actually use in every way. Our bodies have an endocannabinoid system that is only activated with the mimicking cannabis plant, it's built for us to be able to use. So getting into, well, my mother died of breast cancer, actually 1991 to this day, today, but she,
Wow.
that really pushed our, well, it just changed our whole lives and had us really start, well, it wasn't that in particular thing, but someone bringing it back into my dad's life, the plant. And it
Your
just
dad was
being
really
a healing
depressed when your
thing.
mom died.
Absolutely. And he went through just shutting down and being completely depressed. And somebody, a friend of our family, brought it to him and said, you know, I really would like you to try this. I think that it would really help you. And we didn't know anything about eating it then. It was just smoking it. And smoking it absolutely has its benefits. It, you know, eating it is it's the best way because your body actually can process it and it'll change chemically in your body while it's processing, and it'll distribute to the different points in your body that can accept it and know how to work with it and use it. So eating it is the only way you get all of the extra cannabinoids that are actually in it. And then smoking it, you know, you get the THC and it has all of its benefits, but really knowing that it's beneficial is the main thing, and that was the purpose of starting my business, is getting it out to people in different ways.
So you started experimenting with cooking and started making your own recipes, and got really good at it. And then not only did you get good at it, but the technology, I mean, the ability to test your bases and those kinds of things and know exactly how much THC is in your base, so you were able to really help with the specific dosing of all of your different products, and that's really increased the beneficial nature for your patients, correct?
Right. Well, and it's really helpful to be able to know exactly how much I'm working with before I put it into a recipe, so I know how much each piece is actually going to be. The testing has been extremely beneficial, and so very helpful. It really has. But yes, it lets us know, you know, that we have a bar now or a brownie that is 100 milligrams. And for me, when I am talking to a new patient or a patient period or somebody that is, you know, in pain and needing something different, I tell them, you know, you should, like, my brownie would be 100 milligrams. I would tell them to cut it into 6 pieces. You don't have any idea how you're going to react with it. You know, the smaller dosage is great. You know, if it doesn't work, you need to wait like 45 minutes after you eat anything, any portion, the littlest size, the biggest size, whatever. You need to wait 45 minutes before you have more, because your body takes that long to process it and to get it into your system and to feel the effects of that medicine.
So for people who are accustomed to smoking or vaporizing, where the effect hits you very quickly, those folks often end up, or could end up, eating more than they need to because they're not accustomed to waiting for the effects of the edible going through your body, hitting the liver.
I was just going to chime in and say that's the difference. It's completely 100% different if you ingest it versus smoking it. The whole process from putting it in your mouth to swallowing it to the way it processes through your body is 100% different than smoking a bowl or vaporizing, and it processes through your brain. So it's completely processed 2 different ways.
That's
One's,
right.
you know, and when you ingest it, it's your liver, and when you smoke it, it's your brain. So it's not, I always tell people all the time when they don't know or they're new patients that it is completely different. It is nothing the same. If you've been smoking for 20 years and never ingested, you have no idea what it's going to do to you. I mean, I've had personal experiences myself, so.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's a really good point because when it goes through the liver, it produces 11-hydroxy-THC, which tends to have that stronger sedative effect. And so, am I right, Jenny, that most edibles, no matter what they're made from, will give a more sedating effect whether they're made from a sativa or an indica, because of that 11-hydroxy-THC?
Yeah, they absolutely, they're a medicine, and they can be really potent and really strong, and they'll make you not want to get off the couch for sure if you eat too much. And really, it's key to learn your dosing. And I'm ashamed of the people that gave that man that cookie and didn't tell him anything about it, because that's really their responsibility for one. I mean, if he's a patient, whatever, if they got it, it should have been them that ate it. That's the law, and that's how that goes. But if you're looking at a friend and you see this friend's in pain and you know that that's going to help them, and I understand that, giving that, but you have to be responsible to explain exactly what it's going to do and how to use it, because it's a very, very powerful plant. It is a powerful plant, and you shouldn't abuse it. For sure.
So let's talk about that issue right there, the responsibility, because what would you two both say to someone who's new to edibles, in addition to the fact that it's going to affect them differently? So they've got a 100-milligram cookie. What would be the first time, and I'll ask you, Jenny, what would be the first thing that you would make sure that a patient knows when trying one of your products?
That's you, Jenny.
That's me, Jenny. Okay.
You, Jenny.
I was like, oh no, I don't know. Well, I would really have them just try a portion of it and wait for 45 minutes. If that size portion didn't affect them, or they could have had more, then the next round through you try a little bit more than that. But you definitely have to make it a process that you're figuring out, and not just saying, okay, well, that little piece didn't work, so I'm just going to eat the whole thing this time, because you don't know what that's going to do. And when I'm telling someone to, about an edible and things, if they're on medications, I want to let them understand that it will work with your medication too. You don't need a huge amount of an edible, and you can eat a little bit of it and take it before your medication, and it will work with your medicine and make your medicine stronger and more effective for you. And, it is all about figuring out your dosing and what your body can handle, but everybody is completely different. So you have to start with little dosings and figure, build up and see where you're at.
Would you also say that depending on what it's mixed with, or, like saying like a chocolate cupcake is going to affect you different than a blueberry muffin, or as in to say, depending on what the base is, if it's can of butter, oil,
hash versus plant material, concentrated versus.
Right. Well, yes, but testing the base makes that huge. So regardless of what the medicine type or form that you're putting into your base, if you know what it's testing at, then you know how much you're wanting everything to be. So I honestly don't know if the hash oil, I think, you know exactly the potency in your base, no matter what you put in it, then that itself should be a pretty consistent thing for you. I'm not sure if, the different extraction method and putting that into it, I don't know if that makes a huge difference or not.
I think one of the complaints in a scheme of getting very little complaints, this is a very minor one, but one of the things that I think sometimes people struggle with is getting a big brownie or a big Rice Krispie treat kind of thing has a lot of calories in it, and so the butter and the oil versus the concentrates bases. The concentrate bases, you're consuming less calories, and so for people that are more health minded, that may be, or people who have diabetes or other kinds of conditions who don't want to consume a large edible. To get their 100 milligrams or whatever it is that works best for them.
It's like a tincture or something like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Well, those go into your body differently. So yes. As far as that goes, they will process different. You will have a totally different. Say, for instance, if you're drinking a tea or probably taking a tincture, that will enter in your bloodstream almost instantaneously, to be honest. So you'll feel that within 10 minutes probably of, 5 to 10 minutes, because it just goes straight through. But it doesn't have that chemical processing thing, the process where it changes through your liver and it does all of that. So that in itself does take a lot longer, and it does affect you definitely different.
Well, and people say that the advantage to tinctures are, again, that quick delivery system, quick like smoking, but for those folks, and there's glycerin based and alcohol based, and so for the alcohol based tinctures, people who don't want to have alcohol in their system of any sort struggle with a tincture, and then on top of that, alcohol will evaporate quickly, and so as if the alcohol evaporates from your tincture, it increases the potency of the cannabis, and so you have to make sure that the bottle's on really tightly. So there's pros and cons to a lot of these. But Jenny, we're going to have to take a quick break, and I hope you can stay on till after our commercial break, and because I've got a couple more questions and some more thoughts about what to tell this gentleman, Kerry Booth, about his cookie experience. So can you hold on for just a few minutes?
Absolutely.
All right, you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and we'll be right back.
The law offices of Edson, Mayton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding. Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
Hi, welcome back. So something bit me in the studio. Maybe it was that ants. Just talking about bugs made me all freaked out. All right, Candy Girl Jenny. So back to beware of that cookie in the Denver Post today. So Kerry Booth's experience with this cookie, this crazy cookie that we don't know where it came from, other than his family members gave it to him.
Okay.
I mean, I feel so badly for him. I really do.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead. You feel so badly.
He had a really bad experience that went on for a really long time, and he found himself embarrassed. And he uses the word, the terror that went through his mind. I mean, it just, I can just picture this poor gentleman having this horrible experience. Although he's with his family, you would think that he would say something to his family members and they would somehow comfort him, but he doesn't talk about that in the article. What he talks about is that the one, and I quote, "The one thought I came away with was that marijuana cannot be considered safer than alcohol," end quote. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that that's crazy. I really do. Alcohol in itself, if some people can have one drink and I can have one drink and be completely good. If I have two, I might be feeling yucky and getting sick. you have to be able to know a tolerance, but you have to understand, what you're putting into you. And honestly, alcohol leaves your body within 24 hours, and marijuana does stay in your system. Your body doesn't need to push it out. It actually will absorb it and use it and do what it needs to do with it. It's not looking at it like this crazy poison thing that needs to get out. And the fact is, people die from alcohol daily through all different ways of having that happen, and marijuana is safer in every way, I think. So I think that it comes down to understanding, and he obviously does not understand anything about marijuana itself.
Well, what a terrible first experience, and you're right, there wasn't an understanding, and the edibles of old, where people would take their stems and leaves and, like I said, mush them up into the cookie mix or whatever, isn't how it is anymore. And
no.
and you guys have talked about how you would tell a patient to just take a portion of it and see how they feel, and I just can't imagine how many milligrams he had for a first time, and what a scary experience, which is
it is scary. Like I've watched a family member before. It was a family member ate one of my granola bars, and he was at he and his wife to like a fair outground, at Jefferson County Fairgrounds they had gone to, and he called me from there and was like freaking out because he had a really bad experience, but it lasted a few days, but he was able to, kind of talk to me about it a little bit, and I was able to reassure him that it is going to leave, and he just kind of stayed by himself, and it wasn't very fun, but he also understands that he shouldn't have been just eating that, and you have to, it is a medicine. Like, as far as that goes, it's a very powerful medicine.
Right, treat it respectfully. Well, absolutely. and that's the thing that's so a shame, is that he's now the author of this commentary, of this editorial is forever tainted with the feeling that what happened to him was unsafe. And I think that one of the things that I would hope that regulation would be able to aid in is people not getting stuck in that situation where they are unknowingly entering into something that's too strong for them, or not right for their body, or those kinds of things. And that's clearly what happened. But that doesn't necessarily equate to that marijuana couldn't possibly be safer than alcohol. I mean, he wasn't going to die from that cookie. There was nothing about eating an edible that was going to kill him, as opposed to, the first time that you drink alcohol and you do 10 shots, that could potentially put you in a lethal situation.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's just the conclusion that he drew, I think, is unfair and inaccurate.
I just think for him, it's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if he wasn't going to die, he didn't get sick. I mean, he could have got sick, but he, within himself, with the paranoia and just
the psychoactive effects
it has to do with the stigma that is put on the plant too, to be honest. Like the paranoia and everything, you can just relax and get through it. If people were taught about this plant and it not kept up in this bottle saying, oh, it's so bad, and has this terrible shame cloud over it, and people were able to actually understand it, even in school, they go through all these classes talking about how bad this plant is, and that is what has to change and has to stop, is we have to educate people on actual truths about it and understand the potency and how to respect it. Like, it is all about having to get past that stigma of it being the worst thing in the world. And him saying that is just trying to stay with that. But that's why I say he doesn't understand the plant at all. And it is a very unfair and unjust thing for him to say that.
Well, I think you make a really good point. I mean, you said earlier that this is a very potent medicine, and it needs to be treated with thought and respect. And my guess is that when he looked at a a cookie. He just looked at a cookie and thought,
it's a cookie.
It's a cookie. It's a harmless cookie. It's just going to be fun. And
Right.
and he could have felt better and had fun, whatever it is that he wanted to do, if he didn't.
If he was more educated.
If he was more educated and took it more seriously, and like you said, if there wasn't the shame cloud over it. I like that phrase, because there is, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm changing the subject just a little bit, but one of the things that we know that edibles are extremely helpful for is pain, is pain relief. And part of the reason is because the effects of an edible are far longer than smoking, and so people who experience pain can have an edible and actually sleep through the night because their pain has been relieved, as for many, many hours. Which is the unfortunate thing that happened to Mr. Booth is the effects of his cookies lasted for many, many hours. And do you find, both Jennies, that a lot of the patients that eat edibles really find some significant pain relief from eating versus smoking, or eating and smoking, or what do you know? What do you see with your patients?
I would say for our patients, everybody's different. Every single person's going to be affected different. There is particular patients, though, that I would say they only take edibles. Smoking doesn't affect them. It doesn't help whatever their ailment is. So it's only edibles for some patients. And then there's others where it's they do smoke and take edibles for different ailments. Patients that have several ailments will use the edibles for certain things and smoke for certain things. And then I think there's just there's patients that just don't use edibles.
They don't have the effectiveness. Yeah.
It's just
everybody.
Every single person's different. The one thing about the plant is that it's just every single person that takes it in whatever form you take it, smoke, vaporize, ingest. It's going to affect you different than it is the very next person, because that's just how it is.
And that's why having a good relationship with your caregiver, your primary center, and your doctor to be able to help determine what works best for you is paramount.
Oh, and I would say trial and error too. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Well,
yeah, and honestly, smoking has a stigma that is a terrible thing right now too, but it is sometimes the only thing that is most beneficial and helps. When you inhale, when you're smoking marijuana, every time you inhale, it dilates every one of your vessels all the way down to your bronchial tubes, and you get more oxygenated blood to every single organ in your body when you're smoking marijuana, which is an extreme benefit, to be honest. And it really, I think both of them is what people should be doing. I know people will disagree with that because edibles are amazing and huge, but smoking, it definitely has its benefits as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jenny Smith. As always, Candy Girls products are in an MMC near you, including MMD of Colorado.
Yes.
And we thank you so much, especially on today when I know you're thinking about other things. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my dear.
Well, thank you so much, and absolutely, I love to be on and
Great.
Try and tell people things about the plant because it's an amazing plant.
Thank you so much. I also am going to give a plug. The Candy Girls balm is the balm that I use, and it has saved me. I'll tell you real quick, Jenny, I have a stress fracture in my foot, and the only thing that allows me to run right now is to be able to be using that balm. And please don't write me an email saying I shouldn't run with a stress fracture. I know that. I get it. I get it. But right now, that's what I'm doing. So,
Wow.
Anyway,
well, I'm grateful to know that that is helping you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Wonderful.
it tremendously. Appreciate it tremendously. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been a fun show. I want to tell you what's going on the rest of the week on iCannabis Radio. Tomorrow night is Tuesday. It's always Monday followed by Tuesday. That's how that works. From 6:30 to 8, we have American Weed Realm Radio. Listen to the Stanley Brothers and learn about the realm of caring. Jennifer Murray from Can Labs and Dr. Alan Shackelford speak with Josh and Paige, the mom of a beautiful little girl with Duvet syndrome, and she's doing so well. So listen in tomorrow. And then after American Weed Realm Radio, you know what it is. It's Jenny Cush with Sex Pot Radio. Don't miss them. Wednesday from 7 to 9 is, of course, IDAB Radio. All you could ever want to know about concentrates from our friends at Top Shelf. And then Thursday, of course, starting at 7 p.m. is Overgrow the Radio. Next week on Monday, it's the first Monday of the month, so that always means Mad Hatter Smoke Shop joins us for Glass Monday. So don't miss that either. Want to thank this week's sponsors, of course, Mile High Wellness. Thanks, Jenny. Nodo Urban Garden Supply, Edson Maton and Mats, Medical Marijuana in the Rockies, Medical Marijuana 101, and Run on Grass. I'm Georgia. I'm sitting here with Jenny and my producer, Chris. Thank you, Warren, for doing the news, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.